Dr. Leyland. Step into the future, the world is waiting now. Dreams are in the making, we'll show you how. From the books to the screen, from the stage to the stars. Level up your game, let's raise the bar. Innovation, inspiration, it's in our DNA. Breaking through the limits, we're paving the way. Level up, reach the sky, take the lead, don't be shy. Your story's worth it, your light will shine. At Level Up Academy, it's your time. Oh, it's your time. At Level Up Academy, we rise and climb. Empowered in your passion, your voice will be heard. Building a legacy with every word. From podcasts to pages, from business to art. Level Up's the place where it all can start. With heart and with vision, we're chasing every goal. Together we'll ignite the fire in your soul. Level up, reach the sky, take the lead, don't be shy. Your story's worth it, your light will shine. At Level Up Academy, it's your time. Oh, it's your time. At Level Up Academy, we rise and climb. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, we're trailblazing, breaking through the mold. Dreams are alive, let your story unfold. With courage and pride, we'll take the fight. At Level Up, we own the night. Level up, reach the sky, take the lead, don't be shy. Your story's worth it, your light will shine. At Level Up Academy, it's your time. Oh, it's your time. At Level Up Academy, we rise and climb. So let's level up and never look back. On the road to greatness, we're on the right track. Together we'll soar, together we'll thrive. At Level Up Academy, we're alive.
Woo! Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Brother Mike, you are not the first one. You wish you were. It's actually Susannah. OMG. Tonight we have a lot going on, but let's go ahead and put our sister, CDV CEO. Let's see if we can have really talk about who she is and what she stands for. And here is Agape.
Hi, A. Garcia here, founder and executive director of Confronting Domestic Violence. Confronting Domestic Violence is actually founded from my personal experience of surviving a double attempted homicide. I was 8 months pregnant, over 1,000 miles away from home, and had an 8-year-old daughter present at the time. What we do is we have a program that is 2 parts, and it's very well stated in our mission statement. We provide real-time resources to real-time victims, and we offer relocation services when a family has a safe place to go and not the means to get there. All too often, fear and finances are the reason victims stay in their abusive situation. About 20 years later, after surviving that double attempted homicide, I was in ICU. I was in a very bad car accident with a 1% chance of making it. And from there, after petitioning my Creator why my life was being spared, is where Confronting Domestic Violence was born. I realized that I had endured and navigated through so many uncharted waters, not knowing where to find resources or where to find help or where to find what I needed at the time that it was needed. As circumstances change, so do needs. So from ICU, Confronting Domestic Violence was born. I decided to talk about post-traumatic growth, what that is, what the journey is to get there, and now to provide these resources to fill the gaps through, I don't know what else to say. That's where we're ending.
That is so funny. I love it when she does that. I always love it because you know what? It's being authentic. It's coming from her heart, right? She doesn't read a script or anything. So, we are going to be talking about actually, okay, full disclosure, authenticity out here. Our title tonight is Living with Love, Living with Legacy with Susannah and me or I. But really, this conversation started with my 17-year-old. We were driving, and as I was listening to music, I was telling her, I'm like, oh my gosh, Bella, why is it that the song from like men's perspective, it's always about relationship and love and like heartache or whatever. And then if it's a woman, it's always about a relationship on the man. And my daughter's like, oh my God, you're right, mom. It's so weird because 2 days ago, I really was thinking about this same scenario. And she was talking about really love is God and God is love. But let me introduce to you my daughter. She doesn't want to be on the camera. But Bella, tell me a little bit about that conversation and what your thoughts are about that.
Um, how do you want to start?
Start with our conversation. Like, what do you mean by love is God and God is love? Like, how did you find that quote in the Bible? Like, were you just thinking about it or
How did I find the quote or
Yeah.
just the conversation in general?
conversation in general?
Well, basically we were in the car talking about what she said about how like every song is about love, and I was like, wow, that's such a big coincidence, because I was thinking about this a couple days ago about how not just like music but like every like form of expression that we have just like throughout the years consistently, whether it's movies, literature, like poems, books, art, songs, music, whatever, it's like it's always revolving around like the central theme of love. And a while ago, I don't exactly remember when, I was just reading the Bible, which I don't do that often, but I did, and one like quote just like really stuck with me because it said the words like verbatim, God is love. And you hear that like all the time, but like when I read it, I was thinking about how if God is love, then the reverse would be true, that if God is love, therefore love is God, and that's the same thing. But when you switch the words, it really does sort of like hit your brain differently. And when I realized like God is love, I was thinking about how, what I was saying about how everything always revolves around love. And it's just interesting because when you realize that they're the same thing, it's sort of like Christians call it God, and atheists, like, they say that people just made God up as like an excuse or as a way to comfort us when we didn't understand anything, or as an explanation. But they were unaware, sort of, that they kind of just replaced the concept of God with love, unaware that they're the same exact thing. And it sort of hit me like that it was the same exact thing again when I read God is love, because therefore love would be God. And the two concepts we always hold separately, but really they are the same thing. And you can see that too in the way that like they sort of reflect each other in like the real world versus like, the realm of God or whatever, in the sense that everything revolves around love. Love is like it's the most like all-encompassing force, entity, concept that we know on earth, and something that we get to experience. And without the presence of love, without like without the purest form of love, that's always the opposite, which is destruction, rot, decay. That's when things like greed start to creep in. Like everything that is wrong happens in the absence of love, and everything that is good is only present through love. And it's the same concept as what you read in the Bible as God, because I'll say this way, because God is everything that is good, and the entire concept of hell isn't necessarily just a punishment, but it's technically supposed to be the absence of God. Hell isn't just like some place God sends people he hates. It is him sort of respecting the wish of people wanting to be left alone from him, and that's the result, is hell, because that is where all of the horrible things on earth. I mean, even the saying like God, what is it? God forsaken.
Yeah.
That's sort of what it is. Like hell is just the absence of God, and everything horrible in the world is just the absence of love. And I feel like love is almost like people experiencing God in our own physical realm versus, you know, what we couldn't comprehend yet. But it's a reflection, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Bella. You're so deep, baby. Sister, what do you think about what Bella said?
I love how she put it, and there's so much truth to it, because it's always in there that God is love, and we can't. Well, okay, so the second commandment is to love your neighbor as yourself, which is right behind the first one, which is to love God, who's love. So it really all goes together. And when you start seeing people that they just can't seem to even care about somebody else, then whether they claim or not, you have to wonder how much they really have in terms of faith, because that is the second great commandment as stated by Jesus, and so many people seem to refuse to do it.
Yeah, we're going to bring in Sister Danielle. She's coming up right now because we are going to talk about Lisa. And I also wonder what she thought about Bella. And while we're doing that, let me actually provide this information, guys. We still need Elise's help. And Danielle will keep us posted on what she's doing and how Elise is doing. And hopefully we'll see Elise's cameo. If not, it's okay too. But yeah, I'm not going to say anything because guess what? Her mom's here. Hello. So here's Sister Danielle, guys. Sister, unmute yourself.
Oh my gosh. I hope when I was in backstage, you guys didn't hear me.
Nope.
Here's Elise. Here she is. For everybody
Miss
that
Elise. Hi, baby.
You guys are so
Aw.
cute. Animals. This is Esme.
Oh, so
What is-
cute. Okay, keep us posted what's going on with Elise. And what are you doing?
So Elise is still in recovery. So we go to daddy, babe. And she still has that aneurysm. They did say it got a little bit smaller than it was. So you gotta listen to daddy. She's, of course, 6 years old, just do whatever they want. And it's tough because we have been in lockdown and all of that. But so Elise's numbers are looking better, but there's still a lot to be done. And what we've realized is that it's never stopped. So it's tough, when you live in a bubble. Like, we're back to COVID times in our house, right? Masks and staying away from people and in our pod. But Elise is going to do a couple cameos because she just wants to be in the show, I guess. And so that's kind of what's cool. But what we're doing is, if you all are familiar with Kawasaki's, is that they get cracked lips. Elise's lips were like bloody and black, and so there's a lot of things, right? She needs to hydrate, and everything is medicine, right? Because when you're sick, it's like, oh my gosh, everything happens to you, right? And Elise is like, drink water, like hydrate, you got to do this, you got to do that. And so what we're doing is, and my kids came up with this, is we are opening a part of the business to help kids like Elise, but to raise awareness for her, because there's just so much in order for us to get to Sanford, that is not covered. Our insurance has already denied it. So, I mean, we're in the midst of, fighting it. And if not, then, right, we have to pay out of pocket. But what we found is like we're just creating simple solutions that are going to provide for a kiddo like Elise, because a kiddo like Elise has to go into the hospital or have appointments and get their shots. So, for a lot of people, I'm just rambling here. Sorry, it's late. But like you get pokies and shots. And so, some people bring stress balls or they just tough it out. But for a 6-year-old, that's hard. So what does she have? She has her little, if you know what Labubus are, get on the trend, guys. Like for her, it's like she can hug her doll and it can go on your little, like your little water bottle, right? So when she goes, she's like, oh, we got to keep her clean, right? So what do we have? We have her sanitizer, right? We have her little doll that she could squeeze when she goes to the hospital or when she goes out. And she has her lippy because her lips are still cracked and she has to stay hydrated. And it's connected to her water bottle, which she has all the time. And this doesn't have to just be for Elise. This can be for anybody. But in addition, like you can customize everything. And what I realized is like anybody can use it, right? She just has these like little charms that go on there to remind her, like, be strong, like, pray, like have faith that everything's going to be okay. And so that's what we're doing. On August 9th, we're going to be at a local event, but we're going to go live in hopes that we can raise more awareness for Elise and kids like Elise, and also bring more awareness to our community and to people, and doing it like in a fun way, like using toys, like, which is crazy. You don't have to spend whatever this is on a Labubu or whatever toy, but bringing it to the forefront to raise awareness for her and fun, so that kids like her don't have to suffer and it not be fun. Like, okay, it might be better if I have something to squeeze or a nice plushy toy with a nice little stitch that goes on it. So anyways, that's what we're doing. August 9th, check us out, 11 a.m. PST to 2 p.m. Oh, not, yeah, PST. So Pacific Standard Time. Is it PST? Maybe it's not PST. Or is it PDT?
We'll go with that. And where is it going to be, sister?
Pacific time. Just go Pacific time. You can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Where is it?
So this is we're in California. The live event will be in California, but we haven't picked the platform on which platform we're going to go live on. But it's going to be kind of like a whatnot, where we'll have like items like this that you could, bid on or whatever, or buy, that the kids make themselves. So I don't have the other things. I didn't bring them over here, but like little keychains.
So FYI, guys, if you are watching and you are international, we take the donation. Obviously, you guys saw the donation banner, which let me give that one again. So this is where it is. I do have a GoFundMe for Elise. However, if you are in United States of America, okay, all
Right.
50 states, you can do bidding, and she will send you the items as soon as the event is done. So that is what we are doing. So this is actually wonderful. And I want to just make a comment for Jen. Thank you so much for being here. I think this is your first time with Level Up podcast. So thank you for coming in. And I showed that to my daughter, actually, my 17-year-old, right? And I really love, like, I made it as simple as possible. Simplified form of what she's saying, right? Like, God is love and love is God, and the absence of either is the presence of chaos and conflict and collapse internally, relationship, and also within your organizations, right? So a personal life, literally, if life is rooted in God's love, it builds emotional resilience, patience, and forgiveness. And it allows you to love yourself properly and without idolizing yourself too much, and also without self neglect, like finding that little happy medium. And if you act from fullness, not from lack thereof, then you can find that love, right? I think some people, when you love yourself too much, like you're narcissist, right? But it doesn't have to be. No, like, get rid of the label. And in a professional love, in terms of business, love as a business, value isn't soft. Like, it's not just surface level, right? It's strategic. When leadership is driven by compassion and integrity, teams feel safe, they feel valued, and they feel empowered. Like, for example, when you're upgrading your system and you know that it's going to be a lot of chaos, right? And people are going to be like making mistakes left and right. There's no perfection. So, by empowering loyalty, innovation, and long-term trust, like, it's okay, we make mistakes, but we're doing it together as a team. That creates that belonging also, right? Bella, do you have anything to add to what you said about love in terms of like people in general, or any advice to anyone? What your thoughts are about that? Like, what's your follow-up?
I don't know about necessarily a follow-up, but I will say that like one of like the main points of like the things we were talking about that I will say like I think is most or nearly most prominent is sort of the fact that like I know that I reiterated this, but like the fact that like love and God are the same thing. And I feel like it's really like I can't like stress it enough about how like genuinely it seems as though the concept that people call love and they're like, oh, like it's the most strongest, powerful, all consuming, it really is the same thing as God. And like people who maybe don't believe in God or like don't believe in the existence of any other higher power, anything, but they believe in this big concept of love, it's the same exact thing. And that's something that like I don't know, like I just like that's the one part that I keep thinking about. Like it really is the same thing. And like that was almost like an eye opener, like when you switch, just simply like switching the words around really like makes you think about it. But what was your question? What was your
girl? Grace normalized the neurodivergence.
Follow up, like, what would be your advice? Because I do have 13-year-olds listening to our YouTube channel. Like,
advice for what?
For them, like if they said, hey, you know what, I don't really believe in God, or but I
Well,
do believe in love.
If
like,
you're
what does that
talking
mean?
about advice as in like
For teenagers.
oh well, I don't know, one piece of like that's so broad. So I'm just gonna say like one thing about
Dude,
like
seriously.
like love in general and like loving. I think Susannah mentioned like loving your neighbor as yourself and how some people find that very difficult. I feel like the main obstacle with that, like the real reason like it's so hard for everybody to just, it obviously sounds super easy to just kumbaya, love your neighbor as yourself, like everybody's blah 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 blah, but like nobody really tends to do that. Everybody's always thinking about themselves, but it's really just because like our biggest problem, especially in America, which is another whole thing, just because it's a problem all the way over the world, or all over the world, but I feel like specifically America, given its origins and how it started and everything, like everybody is very like, it's a very big focus to be extremely individualistic, which is a good and bad thing, but that's again a whole other thing. But like the real obstacle getting in the way of people loving each other as themselves is, this may sound obvious, but it's literally just pride. And like people can, pride is seriously like the number one reason for like nearly every problem we face as a society in general. Like it is like if people could just put their pride away, kumbaya wouldn't sound so crazy. Like genuinely, the more you keep your pride in check just as a person, if you want to talk about self-love and self-improvement, the more and more you keep your pride in check, the easier it is to love others, because you're not worried about, well, what about me, it comes back to you, and you don't need to worry about like, what about me, like God will worry about that. And if that's not something you strongly believe in yet, it doesn't, like, either way, like what you put out you will receive, and not just in some sort of like gimmicky way. Like seriously, like when you are loving towards other people, naturally that's what you attract energetically, whatever you want to say, that is what you attract, what you put out there. And again, talking about self-love, self-betterment, self-whatever, how could being kinder possibly be a worse thing? I think it's almost like people sometimes too feel like embarrassed to maybe put themselves out there to show love to their neighbor, or too shy to whatever. And that's understandable, because especially again, culture in America, it's nothing like what you hear about cultures. It's nothing like what you hear about cultures like on the East. Again, they have their own problems being very communal that way. And a lot of them face problems with their individuality because, you know, give and take. But it's nothing like what you hear on the East with like the Philippines, for example, from what I've heard from you and like from what I've seen from other Filipinos is that like they're very, very communal. It's in the culture. Like they care about family over, you know, they care about each other maybe over their individuality. And versus in America, it's very much so like me, where's my career? Where's my this? Where's this? And that's not necessarily a bad thing when handled like in moderation, but I do feel like in general, we tend to go a little too far and get kind of consumed with ourselves a little bit too much. But yeah, once you find that sort of a balance and learn to put people maybe not above, but like on the same level as yourself, I truly believe like everything has to do with balance and like equilibrium. And like once you do find that balance of like holding yourself in high regard but holding others in high regard as well, that's sort of when you can like move forward. I don't know if any of that made sense because I was like talking a lot, but
Lisa says this young lady is dropping gems with every word. Thank you, Lisa. That's my 17-year-old. She doesn't want to be on camera, but I gave her the mic.
It's hard. She's in a corner.
She's in the corner. Kapwa. Yeah, literally. Yeah, she is. So what do you think about, like, you know how friendship sometimes, like, you love your friends, but sometimes they might not love you back or you don't get the same love that you want? Like, how do you handle that situation?
Like me personally?
Yeah, personally, yeah.
Well, I guess just having enough, like again with like the balance is like if you feel like you've been giving too much, I would try your best to hold no contempt for that person because a lot of it comes from ignorance or maybe just unawareness or things like that, like sort of again like just sort of focused on the wrong thing or maybe just focused on themselves a little bit more rather than coming from like malicious intent. So I would hold like no contempt for the person, but like have enough respect for yourself to sort of like separate yourself from that person or from the situation, because you, just as they deserve grace to like not be, you know, hated and resented, you also deserve putting yourself in the best situation possible. And if that's not what you're experiencing, you should have enough respect for yourself to leave.
Amen. That's my 17-year-old. So if you guys have any questions, just let me know. I will ask Bella. So Susannah, I'm going to go to you. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, gee, that is there's so much to it. Because she covered so many things. And of course, you know me, I've got the same issue of, right, okay, what do I remember? But I think she's just everything that the way she laid it out and the way she went through everything, it was just everything she said was making sense as she's going through it. And the fact of the way she says it so calmly and just directly.
Wait, say that again.
I said, start paying me money. I'll be anyone's therapist.
She's my kid, okay? Oh my gosh.
I need to keep up with matcha.
She needs matcha, guys. The world is eating matcha, and Bella's that literally she put like out there that she wants.
My greatest wish is to have a lifetime supply
of matcha. Okay.
Of ceremonial grade matcha powder.
Ceremonial, excuse me. Oh, you know who's going to Japan is April. April is going to Japan.
Take me with you.
Yeah, she wants to go with you, April. Okay, so Sister Danielle, any questions or comments on what Bella said in terms of God and love and really people and relationships and about pride?
I mean, like she put it quite plainly. And I think that actually what I want to say in response, which because I don't remember what the question was, but Bella is so, you know, kids are so eloquent and how they see the world. Right. And a lot of the times you look at someone and you look, you know, we look to others to teach us, and it's like, look at the kids. It's so pure, and there's such integrity in their words and what they're saying. So for me, I think there's many things, and I kind of wanted to highlight, going back to Filipino culture, it's this idea of kapwa and the collective, that we are stronger like together, and we do it together, and as a community, right? When we win together. That's what that means. And so when she was talking about it, I was like, it's so embedded in how she's speaking. It's not just about me, it's about removing myself and looking at what's around me. And, you know, and I think I agree that God is love and love is God. And, or, you know, to include other people, is that even if you didn't believe that, or you believed in a higher power, or not in a higher power, that the love still can be there. And that's what we believe in too, is that, you know, we lead with our heart, we communicate with that empathy. And I think that Bella did a fantastic job, and Elise is right here, explaining that. So I mean, I couldn't have said it better. And the idea that she's saying is just embedded in everything, and it just shows how great of, you know, parents she has that have her back, that she's, I know, honey, somebody stole from the toy that Elise got, but okay. But she's beautiful, and beautiful in brains, and the world better watch out for her. And like those two last time.
Okay, so I know I have another question, and we talked about social media.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so the social media issue is that, and this is like, you know, we're close to 50, and somebody here is a little older than 50, and
Yes.
so we talked about social media and the lack thereof. Like, you have to keep up with social media even if you're older or you get behind. But the problem is, what was that we talked about?
We're talking. Oh,
There you go. Now.
well, I think the conversation she's referring to is, mind you, all these conversations happen like when we're on our way to get like coffee.
Yeah,
So
or lunch.
this is like all in the car. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the conversation she's referring to is, we were talking about like differences in the generations due to social media, and like differences to like in the entire world. Okay, you know what, I'm just gonna stop trying to condense it and just talk about it. Basically we were saying how do I want to say this? We were talking about sort of like how older generations like to sort of
Face to face.
condemn. Well, yeah, we'll get to that. We'll like to sort of like condemn the younger generation, Gen Z or whatever generations it is, for being a certain way, for being quote unquote too sensitive, or for being too like different. And in some ways, like, I do see what they mean, but I also think that nobody really talks about why they're like that. And it's not just like a simple generational difference. I think it truly is because the Generation Z is the first generation to be sort of raised on the internet, and the sort of things that implicates are just something, they're just wildly different to like what any other generation previous has ever experienced, because of the technological advancements we've made so recently. And like what she was saying about the face-to-face was how I was saying we tend to, the Generation Z versus like Generation X, because that's me versus like my parents, they tend to look at things, oh, we were talking about race and how people view racism, and how basically Generation Z is much more strict about things that they point out. Mm-hmm. And versus a lot of Generation X are very much so like, oh, like these are just words, like we don't care because we know what's, you know, true, and we know like when we're being racist and when we're not, basically. And I was saying I feel like the difference between the two is that the way that earlier generations sort of interact with each other is very much so it very much so revolves around like face-to-face human connection. And when you can sort of tell like what somebody means, how they're saying it, by their body language, by their tone, by the vibe you're kind of getting in the conversation. And so it kind of makes sense that previous generations who grew up in a time where nobody was really like savvy to what was like quote unquote politically correct, like everybody was sort of going based off of like, does it feel like they're being racist to me or does it not really what was coming out of their mouths, right? And versus Generation Z and so on are more so now focused on exactly what words are being said rather than the contextual sort of situation that it's being said in. And I was saying that has a lot to do with the fact that the way that we like, down to the way that we learn things and view the world and like through what lens has to do with like, we were taught everything sort of like through what we can Google, what we can search online, what we can watch online. And like everything was basically taught to us through a screen and through like sort of like word examples and like, I don't know, like pre-made examples.
Yeah.
Rather than sort of learning it in person, if that makes sense. And we did obviously, I mean, it's not like we're all at home all the time. Like there's still a lot of social interaction throughout the entire world, no matter what generation. But the rise of technology has obviously been like a very much like prominent thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially with the rise of social media, now it's sort of like not like social interaction and physical social connection is still obviously like a thing and it's prominent, but the prominence of social media presence is like no doubt increasing and increasing and increasing. And so people are sort of switching their focus. They're sort of switching their focus.
Or value system.
Yeah, their focus and their value on what they appear like from social media. And what you are and how you present through social media now matters as much, if not more, than how you actually appear in real life. And because of that, I think that's also like caused a sort of switch of where people tend to try to seem a little bit more virtuous than they normally did before. Because beforehand, you didn't really have an audience, but now because of the way that things are, whether it's true or not, whether you have 100 followers or 10,000, it's sort of like this simulated feeling that you have an audience, no matter who you are. If you're a teenager growing up in the same age as us, you feel as if you're on camera, even though, you may not be. And so you sort of feel the need to speak right and sort of like back in your day, right?
Oh, wow.
Back in your day.
Whoa.
maybe the average civilian, right, didn't watch what they said around their friends, but celebrities did, right?
Yeah.
Nobody questioned that because they're on the world stage. Everyone knows they have to act right.
Yeah.
And I feel like people sort of started to like hammer down on this like etiquette because it's almost like everyone feels as if they're on the world stage, whether they are or not, because social media is such a big thing.
Part of life, yeah.
And who you present yourself as on the outside now matters more than anything. And so I think that's sort of why there's a big switch in that. And people just read it as like simple, oh, they're just sensitive, but nobody really looks at what that really is. And I do think that there are cases where people do tend to be a little hypersensitive and a little bit too much like they're just saying things to sort of tell other people that they're on top of their stuff, like they're virtuous, they're the good guy, like look what I'm calling out, look, I'm on your side. But I also do think that there is a lot of like another difference too is the fact that it's kind of like a known fact that people in those days did tend to be a bit more ignorant only because because if you really think about it, at the turn of the century, right, and the technological like age, we now have Google, we now have the internet. You can literally look anything up from any era. If we have knowledge of it, it's on the internet and it's accessible to anybody who wants it. And you guys didn't have that beforehand. Like knowledge was very much so more localized. Cultures were localized. Now cultures are widespread and there's standards to those cultures. But basically what I'm trying to say is that like it makes sense that you in 2025 you don't really have as much of an excuse to be quote unquote racist, whatever the definition of that is. You don't have like much of an excuse anymore because we have so much knowledge and context at our fingertips that you guys didn't have in the past. And that's why it's sort of excusable. Like oh, it was a different time, it was a different time, it was a different time. If they say the N-word in a book from the 1950s, people are like, yeah, it was wrong, but it was the 1950s. But in 2025, you shouldn't be saying all that because we learn from our mistakes. And
Some of us.
but if you're supposed to learn from the past, right? It's different than learning from one or a couple stories from the past versus literally every single thing basically that happened in the past, which is now currently available, if that makes any sense.
No excuse,
Like,
people.
we have such a wider index of knowledge than anybody ever has in the past. And so I think that's too why people are sort of stricter, because what's the excuse? There is like no real reason to be that ignorant in this year, because what's the excuse? You know what I mean? I had something.
Now you know why I'm a professor and I got
I had something else to say and I can't remember.
Okay, we'll go back to you.
Wait, I swear to God, I know what I was gonna say. What was I
Don't
gonna
swear to
say? Oh.
Okay, now I gotta get comments from Mike.
Okay, let me know if any of that didn't make sense because I was talking a lot.
She's talking a lot. Her flow. Mike says, I just sparked my horse and buggy and I'm back. She goes, I do my live stream on Etch a Sketch from Deer Stand, and that's how we did it back in the days. So seriously loving this. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, that's my 17-year-old, guys. If you have any questions, let me know. She'll be happy to answer them. These conversations we're having actually is while we're driving. This is the conversations that my daughter and I are having. Because I was saying, like, there was a thing on TikTok about, like, someone calls somebody, I think it was a Love Island, like, chinky, and she got in trouble for it, right? Or this lady, she happens to be Caucasian and she talks crap about Korean food. Like,
Oh, that was what you're talking about.
yeah. So, like, all of that conversation, I'm like, well, you know, I always like an opinion from my daughters and saying, hey, what are your thoughts on that, right? And my oldest is not here, so she is excused to not have a conversation with her mother, but she doesn't have an excuse because she's next to me.
I remember what you said.
Okay, go ahead. Continue.
This is really not a continuation. It's kind of going back to one of the things I was gonna say, but it's just like an extra point. It was just like about how when I was saying, like, nobody really talks about that aspect of it, about how, like, we raised on social media versus not being raised on social media. I think a reason that sort of goes, like, past everybody's mind or past everybody's, like, focus is more so because, like, it's not like it's just us on social media. I mean, like, clearly when social media became a thing, everybody was on it, whether they were 6 years old or 60 years old. Like, everybody was on it. It wasn't just like the younger generation, but I was just saying, like, the younger generation was on it at obviously a much more impressionable age. And so those who were on it before, or no, not before, but like those who were on it in their older years, they're not as impressionable. They still have their opinions. They're still already, like, molded from their past already. And I think that because they think that they're experiencing or seeing the same social media, they should be, you know, how come the younger generation views it this way? But they sort of discount the fact that they were raised on it during impressionable years. That was just my extra point that I was forgetting earlier.
Okay, Susannah, what are your thoughts on here?
She said
Susannah, comment, sister.
Where's the teletype? she just kept going, and I mean, there's stuff in there. Of course, I mean, I'm on the ancient side, I guess, anyways, based on all of that. So, but I think there is something to be said for how so many have been raised on social media now, and that does change so much of how people learn, how they look at things. You notice when you think about those who complain about word choices versus those who don't, in some ways you're seeing that difference in age too, because there's a lot of that seems to play into it. So I think she's got some good points when it comes to, especially around that social media piece that you just talked about. And I'll let Danielle go next.
Danielle, you have a lot to say, sister. Say it.
I sure do, and it probably should be on my. And this is my area in equal employment, and but just like how we approach people, like okay, and I'm not just it's not a plug to what I say, but like that's why it's important to communicate mindfully, to be mindful. What I get what people are saying and the hyper, I don't know, sensitivity or fixation, but it's always been that way. It's just not been normalized to be speaking up about things that happen, right? Like, for example, if you say, oh, you speak well, where are you from? Well, let's just say me as an example. I'm from California. I was born on an Air Force base in California. No, where are you from? I was born in California. Oh, you mean my ancestors 3 generations back? Because I'm third, my kids are 3rd generation. I'm 2nd generation. Yeah. Okay. The Philippines. Is that what you mean? My ethnicity. And so I'm so proud of Bella, because for a lot of people, it's so hard to talk about and to bring up issues that are sensitive that normally were not brought up in the workplace until there's a lawsuit because you called someone the N-word. Oh, and then there's an excuse of, I'm just using that as an example. You could use whatever, right? Or you sexually harass someone, or you retaliate against someone, and because of you were this person or you had power. So it's just bringing light. I don't think it's hypersensitivity. I think they're communicating from a place of having so much knowledge at their fingertips, like she's saying. And I think I think Susannah and I probably talked about it with CJ too, is there's a principal that actually gave a speech, and he did it in a way that he used Gen Z terminology, which I don't even like classifying people, because obviously there are people like Bella that are just timeless, right? And what I was doing is speaking her language by saying clock it, which means like, listen. That's to have respect for what they're saying. Listen to what they're saying. And I think that a lot of the times, like boardroom, outside of the boardroom, speak and meet people where they are so you can understand, and that we can find a bridge to come together no matter what generation you are, because empathy is free, kindness is free, and those things, it's okay to talk about it. I invite the conversation about what she thinks, because it's changing the way that maybe even I grew up I'm in my 30s and almost 40, yay, and I'm saying there's so much we can learn when we look at our kids and when we let them be free in their thought, okay? And they can teach us so much more about life. And so I love that Bella is not afraid to say what she thinks, whether you like it, whether you don't. And I think just listen and open your heart, and you could really hear what she's coming from, because is Gen Z really hypersensitive? Or is it just that we allowed people to speak their minds in a way that hurt another group of other people? A lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
just
And that's
saying.
what I just said. No excuses, because you already have information on that.
Right.
Mike, Bella said that's very vague, so be very specific. What do you mean by bullying?
Ooh, that's a good
What's
one.
their view? Yeah, I just started the show again with the question. What do you mean by bullying? Like bullying as in school for kids, or bullying as in general bullying, or bullying as in workplace? What does that mean? What do you want to take that on?
Wait, sorry. You're
About
asking me
bullying? Yeah, what's their view? What's your view on bullying in general? In general,
my
period.
view on bullying?
Yeah.
Well, if you say it like that, obviously I'm gonna say bullying's bad.
Okay, well, not that.
But
what
like
do you think about that? Like, okay, why do you think other kids bully other kids?
insecurity and like problems with their own frustration. Like it's always like it's like genuine to this point, like a stereotype at this point of like it's always the kids who have something going on at home who are the most severe bullies because they have no other outlet. They feel so angry, they have to take it out on someone weaker than them so that they feel like in the same position of power that whoever is taking stuff out on them feels. And they're reversing things, and that's their way of taking back control or something. But that's like the stereotype. Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean?
Just let her talk. General bullying. Yeah.
General bullying versus wait, what was the question? What's view on bullying versus ours back in the day? Like the differences?
Yeah, I think for us, like for me, okay, when I was bullied as a kid, I physically fight. I come home with black eyes, like literally.
I will say, like, I'm probably not the best to say, like, my view on today's bullying versus old, like, yeah, bullying in the past, because the schools I've went to are relatively, like, smaller, and I haven't really witnessed a ton of, like, actual bullying going on. I do obviously know that, like, in other places there are severe bullying, but I've never really experienced any sort of severe bullying like that. And so I don't know if I could talk on it in that way, like my view of like what it actually is like, because I really don't fully know from like a firsthand account. But
Yeah,
I will probably say that, like, I mean, I don't know, like, it would be easy to say, I'm sure, wait, our teachers were bullying. Well, I think that for the most part, teachers are definitely held probably on a tighter rope than they were. Like, they're not allowed to get away with as much. But at the same time, teachers are teachers and people are people. They still are, they're still teachers who will target students or be rude, be this, that, and the other. But I do think it's definitely like much more limited than it was in the past. And Jim, again, my schools were weird, so they kind of like kept a close eye on us. They didn't really let us do all that. Although I will say, my past gym coach, he was the weird one. He was the weird one, actually. So it wasn't really the kids; it was the gym coach. That's where the small school aspect comes in.
And bad words weren't.
Oh, bad words, unless they're slurs, still aren't a big deal, I will say.
Yeah.
And actually, to be fair, again, a lot of it is really social media, because I think that people assume that we are much more. I think that there's a higher population or higher number of people who are more, like, quote unquote educated or whatever on what should be considered right and wrong. But at the same time, like, kids really haven't changed as much as people like to say they do or say they did. Like, there's still plenty of kids who say the N-word, plenty of kids who say slurs, plenty of kids who are genuinely just ignorant, and I could say a lot more, but I won't. Kids who are, kids are stupid kids a lot of the times. Like, there's still people who are like that. They're just not showing it on social media, because again, it's people like to put on a front on social media, and a lot of the times the same people who are outwardly speaking about it, not all the time, like sometimes it's genuinely just how they are and they like to talk about it, but genuinely, like, a lot of the times people who are outwardly speaking about it, or maybe not speaking about like racism issues, just anything in general, like, really aren't what they seem to be. They just sort of take credit for being what they position themselves as online, and then don't actually, it's like, it's like a very shallow label that they give themselves and like portray to the world, but they're really nothing like that. They haven't put in the work to be that. It's like, it's literally like a stereotype with like people, I guess, like my age, that like, okay. No, like, so, that like people who have like Bible quotes in their bio are low-key like evil. Like, they're always the ones who are so like exactly the opposite of what they like say. Like, the ones with the Bible quotes in their bio on Instagram, those are the ones who are out doing the craziest stuff, out being the most backstabbers. Like, that's like the stereotype at this point.
Okay, so we're gonna loop back in because we do have to end.
Oh, sorry.
What do you think about leading with love and living with legacy? Like, what do you think legacy means? What does that mean to you?
Okay, you need to stop with the broad questions, because I will like, talk and talk and talk.
Like, let's say, for example, you have kids. Like, your grandmother literally had me at your age, right? And if you think about that, like, what is that? Like, if you have children, obviously you're my kid, but like, if you have children now, like, when they grow up, what do you think you would want them to learn about the world and what to look out for in terms of leading with love?
Personally, if I would have kids, I would just really emphasize how important it is to not let pride get in the way of things. And it's like a lot easier said than done. But like, from the get-go, I would try to emphasize that and like say that pride, it's really just, it's a part of all of us. But if you're able to like look at it and realize, like, this is honestly stupid. Like, why am I letting, my insecurity or my feelings get in the way of something that is more important? And like, pride is really like the death of everything. And also, I would emphasize too, like, this is just me personally, but I would want to show or emphasize my kids or whatever, just how much like the good things to focus on. For me, like the beautiful things to focus on is just like how much like art is in the world. And like by art, I mean like all forms of media. Like it's so exciting that like there's just so many like decades and decades and decades and centuries of things that like you can look back on and discover. And it's like it's the most exciting thing that you can never actually find everything. As soon as you thought you've seen everything, there's another thing you can find. And it's like things like that I feel like are like what it is to experience the world. Like we're so worried about like I don't know, like random problems, random not discrepancies, random like
Issues.
yeah, like fights, turmoil,
yeah.
whatever. But like there's so many like more beautiful things to focus on.
Gratefulness. I love it. Heart wide open.
Yeah.
Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my gosh, she's so funny. You got that, Susannah? Gratefulness, a heart wide open. Our book is out, guys, for real. Just slip that through. So here's my thing. I'm gonna pass the mic to Susannah before we end and really think about like not only your thoughts about Bella, but more of like leading with love and living with legacy and pride. Because I was really thinking about that, right? Like if you actually give somebody and forget yourself for a moment and just give them everything they need, what do you think the world would be if we're all like that, right? So that's always been my thoughts. But sister, what are your thoughts on everything that we just talked about tonight?
Well, first off, I think Bella has the ability to just go all over the place and still bring it together in various ways. And in terms of love, I do see that if there was more love out there, and people who claimed love, they're not loving because they're not loving people the way Jesus was doing it, no matter what they say. It's not. That would make such a huge difference in this world because it's a more tolerant world and with love. And I think there's some people that can't handle that.
Because of pride. Sister Danielle, what do you think?
Pride.
What are your thoughts?
So wow, Bella. I mean, like write a book. I mean, we could talk about all of the things that I mean, I want to watch it back just to hear and to take notes on what she's saying. And, you know, I think just to piggyback off of everybody is that if we would just love each other a little bit, right? Love people where they are. I mean, accept people where they are, right? Like accept your circumstances. Like, I think that's the message that she started with and ended with. It's, you know, love is a universal language. Kindness is a universal language. Like choose it. Choose that. So I think same message that she's saying. We're believers in God, and whether you have a higher power or not, it's just living a life of integrity and of love. Bella, girl, we could talk forever because I know she saw me saying like that means to clock it. Like
She's right here. Okay, what do you think about like friendship in terms of like miscommunication and like bringing it at the end, like you saying about intentions?
Oh, what did I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was saying something to her like while she was muted.
Yeah.
But just basically that like why
Susanna was talking about like love, you have to be like intentional, or you said something about intention. Susanna.
Oh yeah, something she said like made me think of it. Just about how like when she was saying like it's, you know, people who claim they're loving but they're really not. It's like it matters more sort of like what you mean behind your act than the act itself, and like proclaiming it so loudly, like when you give things, or when you're like we were talking about earlier, like when you pay for somebody for lunch, like what matters is like your intention behind it, not the outcome, or not like what you were doing it. It's like why you were doing it. And I feel like a lot of the time too, like just in general for like what the things that we try to do for people, the thing that matters most is the fact that you try rather than if you succeed, because you can sort of get to an end point various different ways, but it's sort of like what like but that sort of like thing within yourself of where that's coming from, like where that's all stemming from, is really what matters. Because I mean, it's another way, I guess, to say like, oh, it's the journey that counts. Like that sort of like phrase really like translates in so many different ways. And it's like the in between that matters.
The in between, right?
Oh, is that
For
like
our
a
next anthology?
Oh wow, I did not even know that.
Yeah, she doesn't know. I didn't tell her.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's weird because I was actually just okay. No, I'm gonna shut up.
She's so fun. This conversation could go on. So this is the type of conversation that my daughter and I are having all the time. And I talk to Susannah and Mike when you're texting or you're talking. Bella's usually next to me, and Bella's like, "Mike is definitely a sister." Yeah. We love you, bro. It's so funny. But thank you so much for being here, guys. And I just wanted to end this. And I'm gonna have my sister and sister Danielle, and then I'm gonna end with Susannah will be the end on her last, and it's gonna probably be more than 8 o'clock. But this is like a special guest thing that I love to have, and sometimes Bella won't talk. But tonight, I bribed her with coffee, and she said yes. Okay, so seems like there's more
I will
narcissism.
say there's a lot to say about that, even though
Okay,
I know
we're
we
8
have no
o'clock.
time, but I will just say there's a lot we can say.
What Bella said, they're like always on
There's
camera,
so
just like
much
yeah.
to say about that.
We used to get away with doing dumb things, and it wasn't blasted to the world forever like it is today. I know it's really it's really crazy. So Bella, Charles from Hong Kong. Hey Charles. Okay, so sister Danielle, what are some of the things that you would give advice in terms of living love? Because I know that Susannah and I talk about you and how you're always empathetic and you're always trying to fill the gap. Like you're always the bridge for miscommunications. And I think it really shows not just being a mom or a wife, but like you as a business person, but you as a person, period. Like that's just who you are. You always lead with love and kindness. And I learned a lot from you to be more compassionate, to think, and I learned a lot from Susannah to um not to give advice too much, because sometimes when we vent we don't need advice. Sometimes we just need someone to listen to, and I have a tendency to do that. So I'm like, okay, I need to be self-aware. CJ to be self-aware, right? So I learned that living legacy is literally every single day on how we treat other people, especially those people around us that we're constantly communicate. So yeah, what are your thoughts on that one?
Me, oh man, yeah, that's just my message. Like, I think Bella's so right. So it's like, oh man, she's saying all the things that sometimes we're afraid to say because we're going to offend somebody, right? And I'm so glad that she said it. It's just like, it's always been there. It's just how we deal with it, right? And love is just, and I love, this is why I'm going to just, I know we're over time, but like, it's such a good conversation. Stay if you want, the thing about it is just like, I think when your actions and your words do not match wherever you are, right? Then that's just manipulation. and when they match, those things, like if you really believe like that a core value that you have is respect, like be that, not just in the boardroom, but outside when you're at your son's baseball game, at, wherever. I'm just giving an example, or in the boardroom or outside of it. And so that's what I mean. Just like take some time to just, even when you're in the car, like be mindful, like somebody might be going through the most horrible day, and you might want to lay on your horn, but maybe just give that person some grace. And maybe there's a reason why your thing is delayed. So I am just more impressed by what comes out of my kid's mouth, and including Bella. They're an extension of my heart, and hearing that. So to me, it's just like, lead with love, everyone. Like, can we go wrong if we lead with love? I mean, and we communicate with empathy? No.
Yeah. No.
Bella, girl.
World would be a better place. Okay, end it, sister Susannah.
Tell them.
You're muted, sister. I can't hear you.
Good. It's definitely a full topic, full house today with everything that's been in. And when it comes to love and legacy, if people would just lead with their heart more, they're going to leave a better legacy behind them for those who come after them. If we could just lead with the heart more than what's happening right now, it would make a difference, because it would drop away the pride and the envy and basically just take all 7 of the deadly sins, as it were, and put them behind us and focus on love, peace, and joy. That is a way to get everybody onto the same page and move forward in a positive way, because God is love, love is God. You can't go negative if you lead with love.
Yes, it is. Okay, end it, and then we're gonna definitely end it with, like, what did you just say? Just that one right there.
Oh, I just said, like, I agree, because it's just all about, like, where things stem from, and, like, once you have a good foundation and, like, place where things come from, like, then it all comes much easier, or, like, it's much easier to go to the same page when you have a
Love.
foundation like that.
Yeah, the core is love. So I love you guys. Bye, guys. If you have any questions for Bella, let me know. I'll be happy to talk to her and have a conversation on what it is. Like, if you're just curious, like, I'm curious about this, she'll have opinions. I'm just saying. Okay. Bye, everybody. Have a beautiful evening. I'll see you Tuesday for Susannah, Wednesday morning for me, Wednesday afternoon with Mike's show, and then Thursday morning with me as well. So Wednesday we'll have somebody new. You guys never even know. And then Thursday, we will have Charles Caldwell from Hong Kong. Bye, everybody. See ya.
I started in the silence, behind closed doors. Dreams too loud to keep tucked in the floorboards. Late nights, broke days, no applause in sight. Just coffee, hustling that fire to fight. They said, play small, but I'm built to expand. No silver spoon, just grit in my hand. I will every note, like armor and steel. Visibility's a battle, but I'm real and I heal. From invisible threads to the front of the stage, I'm rewriting the script, turning scars into page. Level up, rise above the fear. Let them hear your voice, make your purpose clear. Every step, every stumble, every tear in the rough. You were made for this moment, you are enough. Level up, break through the doubt. Turn the whispers of your past into a victory shout. You ain't just chasing clout, you're building a legacy. Now the world's gonna see what they couldn't believe. Yeah, what they couldn't believe. See the back end, just a headline glow. But success is built slow, where the struggle don't show. Algorithms change, but your mission's divine. You're the brand, you're the vision, you're the power behind. You gave free just to prove you have value inside. Now it's invoices paid and your name amplified. You're not just in business, you're changing the game. And your visibility, that's more than a name. No more shrinking, this is expansion. No more asking, this is commanding. You've been the spark, now you're the flame. Entrepreneur by fire, fueled by name. Level up, rise above the fear. Let them hear your voice, make your purpose clear. Every step, every stumble, every tear in the rough. You were made for this moment, you are enough. Level up, break through the doubt. Turn the whispers of your past into a victory shout. You ain't just chasing clout, you're building a legacy. Now the world's gonna see what they couldn't believe. What they couldn't believe. To the late nights, the lost friends, the risks you took, to the brand you built and the space you shook. Here's your crown, your moment, your spotlight beam. You didn't just chase the dream, you became the dream.